You're listening to Life and Shyt. I'm Daneyel Walker.
And I'm Tommy Walker.
Join us as we talk about our journey overcoming fears, boundaries, marriage, family, lifestyle, business, and whatever other shit you can think of.
We're individuals that came together to create one unit with one mind and one goal.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Was you singing out loud?
I was feeling it.
Super dope.
What's going on?
I don't know. I'm vibing off of this new setup we got here.
Okay.
It's different.
Yeah,
it's like when
good.
Somebody comes into your house and move all your furniture.
Yeah. You silly. I feel like it feels cozy.
Yeah,
it's
it is
nice.
a little more cozy.
I like it. I want to give a small shout out to my uncle Cortez, who gave us this bottle of wine to share. And we were drinking it on the podcast, which he says that he watches. So shout out to my Uncle Cortez. A small thing about my Uncle Cortez is, as I don't, maybe you've heard before or not, but I never met my father. He was one of four brothers.
Brothers or siblings?
And one sister.
Okay.
It was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. One of their friends reached out to me on Facebook, and I was able to connect with them. So I've never met my father, never seen him, but I was able to be introduced. Actually, this was long. It was before I was married, so it was over 10 years ago. To be honest, it was before I was married. So yeah, I apologize. This is true.
Way longer
so I
than 3 or 4
apologize.
years.
3 or 4 years ago. But every time I see him, it feels so brand new because it's just having that part of my life that I never had for so many years. And I'm so grateful to have him in my life. He's very active. He called me on my birthday. He sends holiday cards all the time. I love you, Cortez. Thank you for everything that you do and for always staying relevant to me.
Super dope. Shout out to Cortez. Thank you for the gift. And, people just been gifting us wine, and we really appreciate it. So shout out to,
take it.
Yeah, shout out to Cortez. And it's a red blend from Napa Valley. So, we've had many different wines on here, and, it's not like we're selling anything or nothing like that, but it's just our experience. We really enjoy red wine.
Yes.
And to try all these different ones from all different parts of the world is pretty fucking dope.
Yes. And with that being said, there's going to be wines that we like and wines that we don't like. So
1,000%.
I mean,
And for those the ones that we don't like, it's not like we ain't going to put you on blast because we're not that kind of people.
No,
you just won't be back on the show.
Yeah, you're so silly. Or we may not talk much about you.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. Are you ever too old to be a roommate?
Are you ever too old to be a roommate? Hell yeah.
I say no. I say hard times comes and people need help. And if you get older in age and decide that you don't want to live alone, then it would be like better to live with someone.
Yeah. So too old to be a roommate. Okay. It depends on what the circumstances are, right? Okay. So if you've been alone for a very long time, or just living out on your own, whatever, and then you have to have a roommate because of circumstances, then no, you're never too old. But if you've been a roommate for most of your life and you never lived alone, then yeah, you're probably too old.
It's like you went out of your mom's house and then you was roommates at college, and then from college you roommated with like whoever you worked with.
But granted too, I understand.
And then maybe went back home.
Yeah, because rooming. I mean, when you got roommates, it's for different reasons, right? Especially depending on where you live. First, if you start with geographically, like if you live in New York, if you're here in San Diego, it's expensive as hell.
Yeah, it's true.
So a roommate just helps with paying rent. You know. Now, if you're like me, I was in the military, so I've had roommates the whole time I was in the military, not by choice. We more like bunk buddies.
Makes sense.
So I totally get it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's what kind of roommate would you say you are? Because then that's a whole nother thing too, right? So it's like when you come, it's you're in a position where you are a roommate or you have a roommate, right? But what kind of roommate do you think you are?
That's a fucking great question. Let me think about that for a minute. So I didn't have many roommates. So shout out to my man Daria. We had him on the show when we talked about child support, and he was my first roommate outside of like living in the barracks. Like, you live in the barracks, it is what it is. You live in barracks, for those that don't know, being in the military is basically military projects. So when we moved out, we moved out together. That was my first roommate, and we both had, similarities. So it was like, all right, we're going to clean on this day. You're going to take care of this bill. I'm going to take care of this bill. So we split everything down the middle. It was easy.
It was a good roommate experience.
And we both were clean, so we picked up after each other. It was never stuff left around. And we were really good friends, like brothers, right?
Oh, okay.
So I guess, depending on what kind of roommate you are, if you're there because you're lonely, or if you're there because you're young and you're like, well, shit, let me just get out with my homie and we get a spot together, make it a bachelor pad.
That's pretty cool.
Or if it's for convenience or and help.
All my roommate, well, I won't say all, but a lot of my roommate situations were horrible, I tell you. Absolutely horrible.
So same question then.
Yeah, well, I'm good, I say.
You're a good roommate?
No.
I would beg to differ.
I beg to differ about you as well.
Because I remember the first time I walked to Daniel's house when we was first dating, and it was a pile of clothes in the corner.
That's in my room. My whole house is spotless. So there's, my house is spotless. And my space is my space. So,
but then we had to share that space together.
Oh, well, I mean, I still have to have space, though. You know what I mean? Like now I don't have any space. It's all shared, which means it all pretty much is the way that you would want it. If we want to talk about roommates, not the way there's no me. I have to conform all the way to you. That's different. True. So that's like that's a different part. But as far as what kind of roommate I am, I guess that's just it. I always freaking conform and then end up doing whatever is the best thing to make the relationship or the house be better. But when I was young, I was in roommate situations because I always wanted to leave where I was. I always left my house, so I'd go and stay with friends. And I stay with friends a lot, and I knew early in it's just like I'm gonna not be noticed, right? So it's like I didn't want to be in the kitchen when everybody was in the kitchen. It's like when everybody
trying to be a burden.
Yeah, it was like I was just in and out type thing, and that was it. Then I recall when I first got kind of like I was grown and I'm like, oh, I'm out of here. I was 19. And I had a roommate and she had a little baby and her baby threw up all the time. So it was like throw up spots like all over.
So let me tell you, let me ask you this. So, because you said when you was a kid, you were trying to get away from places and you were roommates. Were you paying bills? Were you paying rent?
No.
Then you technically was not a roommate.
Yeah. so then my first, but I was, right? Because I mean.
No, you was living with someone.
I was able to help with like food stamps and stuff like that.
Okay. So, but you at least brought something to the table. All right. And if
that's just for me to eat, but it wasn't like
agreed upon.
Yeah. It wasn't like I was able to pay rent or we had that conversation. It was like, can my friend stay with us? And she's able to provide this or that, And that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was temporary situations. Just side note, there was just different times where my family was in spaces and places where they were roommates, right? And there was 5 of us, and I just knew that it was uncomfortable for all 5 of us to be in that space. So I was able to.
Siblings.
Yeah, no, I was able to find. Yeah. Yes. So I would always try to make myself as far away, like just as not as much of a burden as everybody else, right? Because they were young and they could be, and I knew that I could find a way on my own. So it forced me to be a young roommate, kind of like a stowaway, right? Kind of like I'm just gonna stay here for a little bit, right?
That's more
in this
accurate.
little space right here. And then when I had my own space and I had my own room, and then that's when I had the throw up baby, I call it. It's like, oh my goodness, it was horrible.
The throw up baby.
Yeah, I didn't have the throw up baby, but my roommate.
Oh, your roommate had the throw up baby. Okay.
And I was just like one of those things where you're like, you don't know what to do. Poor baby is sick, right? So it's just like change the formula or do something. I don't know. That's when I first learned about that, But that was like one of the worst roommate experiences that I ever had. As I didn't have kids, they had kids. They would drink. The baby daddy would come by, and then it's just like, and then I feel there's a big difference when you're the roommate in that house or when it's your house and the person is a roommate to you.
Oh,
right?
1,000%.
So in all the experiences that I'm talking about now, I was the roommate, right? So have you had that? Yes. So have you had that experience where you're the actual roommate?
No. So my roommate.
When we met.
Oh, when I was homeless.
Well, you after. I mean, once they put you out, you were homeless. But before then, you were a roommate.
Even then, when you sleeping on somebody's couch, you homeless. Like no, when you're a roommate, that means you have a room. I was paying rent on the couch, so that was a real slumlord kind of environment. So I was 1,000% homeless. and in my situation, unfortunately, was much different because that was a church thing, right?
Yeah,
so you know, I reached out to the church, and the church was supposed to
come up,
you know,
build the building.
Yeah, it was all a part of the building fund, right?
Raise funds.
So I was told like, oh, you're gonna have a room, you're gonna have all this, you know. And when I moved in, there was already people living there.
Yeah.
So it was no room. I slept on a couch. All of my stuff was in a garage.
It's like you get the couch every other Sunday, not even every Sunday.
Yeah. And I bought an air mattress so I could sleep on the floor, so I could at least be somewhat comfortable, right? And then I got put out, right? And I got put out not because I couldn't pay rent, it was because I was dating you. Like that was crazy shit right there. That was our life.
Oh man.
Yeah. So when you become a roommate, it's more, you know, for choice, right? It's like, oh, I want to be a roommate, or you fall into a like, oh, I need help, and I fall into a situation, right? So when I was 17 years old, I left my parents' house, never looked back. And at some points in life, I was like, all right, I got to do whatever I can, you know, so I don't fall back or I don't move back to my parents' house. And now, because as a grown up, as an adult, I become a roommate to my parents, and I don't want to have that conversation of like, so I pay rent here, so I got rights. Because to me, as a roommate, you have rights. You know what I mean? If you paying rent, you got a room, you got rights, but you're still in your parents' house.
Oh, it's so funny.
So me growing up, it was me and my man, Dare, right? And we lived together for about a year, maybe 2 years. And then after that, it was just relationship as a roommate, right? So you're sharing a space because you're in a relationship, which for me wasn't very many. So to me, like the whole roommate thing is all new. Like it was family, my homeboy, relationships, kids. And then at some point I think about, so my first, you know, I think about my first roommate, I actually first and last. So Daria was my first and last roommate. You know, what did you gonna say?
I'm a roommate.
No, you're not a roommate. You're my spouse. It's different. You're a partner.
We mate in the same room. We don't have our own rooms.
That's true.
I can't have my own. If I pile clothes up in a corner, if I pile clothes up for a week, hell, you're going to be like, so is there anything wrong? Or I'm going to hear little comments like, so she's a procrastinator, or she don't do nothing fast. Or I'll be like, oh, okay.
It's all true stuff.
Okay.
but you don't have you don't have your own room because we have one space. And that's a trip. As a, you know, as a culture, you know, it's like, all right, we have to share the space. And if you had your own room, it'd be like, well, I mean, you got your own closet, but that space is still shared.
It's funny, and that's literally the shit of roommates that I have is, one, they invade your personal space, and then two, you can't escape their annoying little habits and quirks, like, and they can't escape yours either, right? So it's just like, it's annoying as fuck that she does that, but.
So I would say the superstar roommates, like, to me, there's always levels to everything that happens out there, right? So we're probably terrible roommates, but then the superstar roommates that's out there is like the Airbnbs that share their house.
Oh gosh, yes.
Because we've shared. Like now, I wouldn't technically call them a roommate because it was a short period of time.
Okay,
but. Okay. We shared fucking space, and we had those awkward conversations. We talked about this on a different podcast. Like, you have those moments.
Yeah. Well, we were STR, just not rental, just roommate. short-term rental or roommate,
short-term
and long-term long-term roommates is different.
I mean, from Hawaii, like we shared a house in Hawaii, we shared a house in Tahiti.
Yeah, that's different. It's that short term though.
Yeah.
It's just like they say with relatives, right? If they come over, for the summer, even you come for the summer, they wine, they dine you, and then you go home and it's like, okay, it's just don't stay past the summer because then you see the real, it's like, oh, honey, Auntie Daneyel works, you know what I mean? I'm off for the summer,
Yeah. So overstaying your welcome is a very real thing, right?
Yes.
So when you overstay your welcome, and that's the unfortunate thing about rooming when you need help, right? If you need help and you're like, all right, all I need is 6 months and I'm gonna get on my feet, do my thing, whatever the case may be. And then all of a sudden it's 9 months and it's like, yo, then you had an conversation, all of a sudden it becomes an argument.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And it's hard.
Yeah, and then now all of a sudden it's like, well, you haven't helped me. It's like, hold up.
Yeah.
I've been helping you for 9 months.
Yeah, this is true. This is very true. What are some of the things that, like some of the ground rules that you can set before a roommate comes in that can kind of help you from getting to a bad spot, right? Because a lot of times roommate situations, they end up, it's not like a clean, easy break, right? It's kind of like sometimes they end up a little funky. But one of the things that since having roommates or having anyone who has stayed with us or something of that sort, I'm like, we're going to contract it. Boom. That's it, right? To me, that says like, this is the way it is, protects us both. But what is something that you think we could do or you would do other than like set the ground rules?
No,
right?
The contract is the best way because that's what we did. We've had different people come in and stay with us for different amount of times, but we've never done a contract. And then the one time we did do a contract, it was like, all right, let's put a contract together. Let's make sure
more than one contract.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've done.
We ain't on them contracts.
Yeah, we did. Well, one of the rules I think, or one of the things would be is to be aware of like my schedule. Like if I work overnight, then it would be hard to have a roommate, that worked in the days, and then at night you have friends over or you have this, and then I'd be like, hey, like I'm trying to sleep or this or that, or like, so schedules, right?
Yeah.
So being aware of each other's schedules, I think is a great thing for roommates.
Okay, so when you say what comes to the table to make sure that it's a good thing, you first got to roommate with somebody that's on the
compatible.
Same vibe. Like we got to be. You can't have someone. Oh, I need a room with you, or I would like to room with you, or I need this help, whatever the case may be. And that person is a day person, and you have an overnight shift, or vice versa. If
you need help, you're not going to be homeless because that person is different or in a different schedule than you. So, but if you're the one that's in need now, then you need to be the one that conforms. Like if they party if you're the one that works overnight, then damn it, wear some earplugs, or you know what I mean, or some headphones. You know what I mean, like put your music on and zone out. That's it. So to me, that you're the one that has to, because you're in the house. So, but in the opposite, it's like, this is my house. So, so I think that's one of those things where it's like, are you the roommate, or are you, do you have the roommate?
Or you're the stowaway.
Yeah, you're the stowaway.
Actually, we should have put on here stowaway versus roommate. That's what we should have put.
What about like communication? It's like communicate in person. I know lots of stories of these kind of like passive aggressive roommates where you kind of would start leaving notes for each other, or.
But that's actually worked for a lot of people. Like me and Dora used to leave notes for each other.
Okay,
right?
but they weren't rude.
Nah.
Okay.
Nah. Well, I mean, granted, like me and this dude, we lived together, we worked together. You know what I mean? Like it was like sometimes we carpool, sometimes we just roll to work separate. But even still, if it was like if I'm out, here's a note real quick. But it wasn't a note like make sure you clean this or not like that. It was just like I'll be out. Okay. Don't forget this or whatever the case.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. And there was no text messaging like that then. Not to age you, but it just wasn't that.
No, yeah, we had three-way pages. That was when text messages first started. Yeah, but but we wasn't. No, we was more like let's have a conversation versus sending a text message. I don't know. I feel when you ask me that, my inexperience in being roommate is what comes to mind. It's like I have zero experience because for me, I think about cultures where the whole family is in the house, right? And some cultures don't consider that a roommate. It's like, no, this is the whole family, and we're going to live together until we all have this goal. And when you achieve the goal, when one person achieves the goal, boom, you go out and do your thing.
I have a friend, she's actually Filipino, and that's how they work. And the way that they work even is when everyone in the house has a certain thing that they take care of. So one person pays all the car notes, one person pays all the, and I guess whoever pays the mortgage is the person who's next up to be moved out. And what happens is they buy a house for the next person. So it's like your family stays there, but while you're there, you're in charge of all the clothes. So like she was in charge of all the clothes. So literally she bought clothes for everyone in her family. And I was like, damn, it was like thousands of dollars worth of clothes. But she's like, that's all I got to buy. You know what I mean? And I'm done. And you don't buy clothes that often. I was like, this is true. You know, so I think like it was like food. So everyone had a thing. And I mean, that's building, and that's community, and that's keeping responsibility, and that's keeping her like, you know, accountable. Yes.
And that's communication. It was agreed upon, like, all right, this is your role. And everybody had their role, which is great. Right. And if you communicating. So once you hit that goal, then you move on, right? And that's to me, and when we've done that, even in our own house.
Yes.
So to me, that's my experience of like the way it should be. I take that back. That's not in my experience of the way it should be, because my experience is, how old you gonna be when you get out? So I got out at 17, so it wasn't no like roommate kind of experience. And then for our kids, it was the same way. It's like, we want to prepare y'all so y'all not roommates, because I grew up watching my uncles live in my grandmother's house, and to me, it's like, that's not a roommate. That's my uncle living in my grandmother's house. You know, that it's time for you to go, bro. You know.
Yeah, your grandma was probably like, this is my roommate. Shout out to Grandma's Boy, where I first heard the saying he was
she's my roommate.
Yeah. He was like, it was his parents, and they're like, your parents? And he's like, no, my roommates. It's like, bro. Since then we've had many roommates. Another thing, I think another way to like kind of set these rules before someone moves into your house is, and you don't know until you've been around that person. Like, so when I was moving into another place, the people who I was renting from wanted to come and see what my house looked like before I moved in there. This is the first time that had ever happened.
Your old house, like your current house before you moved into a new house.
Yep.
They want to see.
So when I applied, they said, hey, do you mind if we come by your house to sign paperwork and see, like, which means they want to see what the hell how I live, right?
1,000%.
And I was like, sure. And they came, and they were like, love it, love the vibe, love what you got. You know what I mean? How long you been here? Years? Like, they looking around like, oh, okay. Now, if we could do this for roommates, that would be different, right? Because then you can see.
Culturally speaking, who were they?
Mexican.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My Santa Margarita. When I moved, I mean, granted, I had awesome landlords from when I was moving out of where I was off of I can't remember that street, but I was in
52nd.
52nd. For moving out of there, I mean, I got rent. I got 2 months of rent free, and then I got my deposit back, and he helped me move. And then these people, they came to the house, wanted to see, husband and wife team, came in, very proper, seen my house, and they were like, we're good. It was my first house that I ever rented, and I was super proud. And I took very good care of their house.
And that was their way of no background check. They were saving money.
Yeah.
Because they could have just ran background checks
on. They background checked me.
And still wanted to see how you.
They background checked me.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I could have had the option to say no, right? Like, no.
They'd be like, nope, you can't.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, no problem. But I'm saying that because then you see how clean that person is or not, right? So if you have a roommate and it's like, like do some references or something, it's like, they had a tendency to leave shit all over the place, you know what I mean? And they're gonna do the same thing when they're with you, but you don't know, and you just have that person come in. You can have the conversation, and it's like dating, right? So do you clean up behind yourself? Oh yeah, I clean up behind myself.
Put on.
You right. Do you wash? Oh, I can't stand for a dish to be in the sink for longer than 20 minutes. You know what I mean? I'm just a washing, and then it comes time and you're like, what about, what all those things that you said? And there's a show, Fear Thy Neighbor, I think it's called. Oh man, that show is full of people who come in and their roommates are actually crazy. So that's a whole nother thing, right? What about when your roommate's crazy?
You know what the trip is? Your references for shows, the shows that's it. Like whatever your show is for that season, because you used to reference that show a lot.
That is so true. That was crazy. It just seems like the universe would be like, look, connect.
But that's more of a stranger, right? That's when you're doing a stranger kind of a roommate.
No,
not people you know.
The Fear Thy Neighbors. Those were people that they knew too. Shoot, they actually moved in, and it was like, like I didn't know you were like that, right? I mean, they get weird. It's like living with someone, and I've told my sister this before. Because she's like, no, this is my best friend, or this is this, or it would be great to live with this person. I just want to be around this person all the time. And then 1 month in, it's like, I want to strangle this person. They don't clean up, they don't do this, they do that. They always say little smart remarks, or, I mean, it's rough having a roommate, and it's rough being a roommate.
So the thing is, people have roommates because being lonely, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to you have a roommate for the most part is because either you don't want to be lonely, somebody else don't want to be lonely,
or you can't afford financial situation, right?
And it becomes convenient, right? Then when it becomes convenient, then that's when it gets really weird, right? So it's like, all right, let's not be too comfortable, let's not be too convenient, and respecting boundaries. So when you ask the question about how do you make the situation comfortable, is you got to respect boundaries, and you got to be able to have open communication without being offended. And I think that's one of the difficult things as as a society period, is to be able to have an open communication without being offended.
I totally agree. You and your roommates, they're different people, right? You come from different backgrounds, you've had different experiences, and all of you are set in your ways. So when you guys get together, you got to kind of massage around that and not just be so strict like it's my way or the highway. I say.
Well, it depends on who house it is, right?
Yeah, true. So,
and that's the other thing is like, my first roommate experience, we actually went and found the house together, right? It was like, all right, you like this house? I like this house. Cool, 2 bedrooms.
It was our house. It wasn't your house, my house, right?
Yep. So that's why for me, I've never had that experience of like, let me put an ad out and then have someone come in and be a roommate. Yeah. And even like I said, with the pros on Airbnb, I would never do that. Yeah. That's just, I don't have the energy for it.
Yeah, that's being a super host, right? Living with someone is hard. Don't get me wrong. Having someone live with you is hard. I think it's important that you set the rules early and you set goals, and that you touch bases on those goals, whether it's once a month, every 6 months, or whatever, so you guys are both aware. I think those are important. But yeah, I think that's super important.
And helping people and living together is 2 different things. So if you're in this to help someone, then like how you said, touch in on those goals, make sure that everyone is on track so that, again, it doesn't become an awkward conversation at the end of its due period. Yeah. But if you're living together, you're just living together. And if it's not working out, it is what it is. You need to break apart and make sure that you don't, especially if you got a good relationship with that person, that it doesn't get weird and you end up on Fear Thy Neighbor. But I make fun of that, but that's real shit, right? I'm like, and you got to choose wisely because, like you said, you could get burnt out from a human, right? And if I when I'm in a relationship like ours, if I'm in a marriage, I'm committed to that. So therefore, I have to work on myself and do different things and kind of, like how you said, kind of conform, but at the same time be aware. So if I'm just living with someone and I'm not committed to that person, that can create burnout, just like a job. You know? So you have to choose wisely because burnout is just not for work. It could happen anywhere.
Real talk. I found a cute little quote, and it says it's by Martin Spooner King. I have a dream that one day the dishes will be done, not by those that need them, but by those that created them. I think that is hilarious.
That is hilarious.
And my final thought, though, is Mama had, Daddy had, and you heard this quote that I've said before, but God bless a child that has their own. There's nothing like having your own. You could be a roommate if you need to be, but God bless a child that has their own.
Facts. You know what? Thanks for being a roommate. I could complain too about our other roommates. This is Life and Shit.
Life and Shit.
I love you.
Love you too.
do us a favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Leave a review. Let us know what your thoughts are. That's the only way that this show is going to be successful. And we appreciate you. Talk with you next time.